And you're very welcome along to Off the Brawl on Off the Ball. I'm Ronan Mullen, joined as ever by Andy Lee and Phil Egan. Lads, how are we?
Very well, yeah.
Good,
yeah,
good.
All good.
Packed week of action, only one place to start, the fight everyone's talking about, Paddy Donovan and Jason Quigley's spar. How's it go? How did it go?
It was box office. It's some of the best sparring. Well, it's the way sparring should be. Highly skilled, no one getting really hit clean too much. Both guys, and if any mistake is made, they're getting paid. You know, they're getting... it's costing them. So, yeah, very highly skilled, very intense, high focus levels. Good sparring.
And in between rounds, are you giving advice to both men, or have you got someone else working?
No, both of them. They know what they have to do. You know, they know. I just have to remind them. And yeah, it's good, very good.
What kind of weight advantage is Jason?
It's a lot at the moment. Yeah. That's the thing. But Jason's wearing 20-ounce gloves.
Yeah.
But that'll only make his hands heavier, but it'll take some of the sting out. But he is a lot heavier at the moment.
Yeah, and we'll probably get onto it later with Canelo and Kovalev, but you obviously would have sparred Klitschko and these kind of guys. So how does your sparring differ from, say, your sparring Bondridge to sparring
Well,
Klitschko?
sparring Klitschko was just like, it was different. He was never trying to hit me or go... He was trying to hit you, but never, like, fully hit you, if you know what I mean. And for him, it was about speed, and I could move, and I knew my role. You know, I knew I wasn't going in there to challenge him physically. But with these two, at the moment, there's a 10-kilo difference between Jason and Paddy, and they're just letting it go. They're not holding back, you know what I mean? And but it's good stuff. Both of them are doing really well, making adjustments.
And is it a rivalry? Is there like a sibling rivalry in the camp yet, or is
they're great friends? They're not. I wouldn't say they're great friends, but they're very friendly. They're friends. They're training together and they're suffering together, so that creates a bond.
Yeah.
But
and it's
there's a rivalry there in terms of there's a competition there, and if one lands a clean shot, the other one is doing everything he can to get it back.
And it's manageable now when you have two, like, needless to say, the way things are going, Andy, you're going to have 10 by this time next year, but you're able to have everyone in camp at the same time, but like with bigger stables, I'm sure you would have known, like, you're on sort of a rota system, I'd say.
Yeah, you stagger the times, and even with these, even though the two, I stagger the times from time to time just to give them more one-on-one individual stuff, but and they complement each other, and they're good, like, you know. I don't want to be speaking too much about him, but in some ways Paddy's more advanced than Jason. You know, even though Jason has all this experience, he's been, and I wouldn't say he's picked up bad habits, but he has a certain way of doing things. And Paddy is further down the line with me and him training together, and so Paddy's an example to Jason, but Jason's also an example to Paddy in terms of his dedication, his work ethic, and his attitude. And he lives the right life, so they work well together.
And both have fights coming up, and we've lots of fights to get into, fights to preview and look back on. But before we get into the World Boxing Super Series and what has been an unprecedented success at the weekend, a former combatant in that tournament is Ryan Burnett, who's sadly retired now, and Andy, you would have been very close to him, shared a stable with him. Just he had an unbelievable career, and to retire at 27, having accomplished what he has, it just shows what he did and what he's capable of doing.
Yeah, and what he could do a lot more. You know, unfortunately he's injured, and I think he's quite happy though. He's happy. It's been taken away from me. I think he's quite happy in his life, speaking to him, and he's quite content. And that's all you want. And it's important to know as much, like the biggest decision I think is knowing when to hang it up. Like we got Anthony Crolla having his farewell fight this weekend, and it's the biggest decision he'll make. You know, to turn pro, to pick a trainer, all those are important. But once you've done that, knowing when it's over, and I think Ryan walks away from the game having achieved a lot more than people would expect him. Like remember when he was like, we couldn't even get a license when he had those brain scans, those issues, and yeah, you guys know him. Like he's a good kid. And he's achieved so much, and I think he's financially set. And why come back and get beat just because of an injury? You know, why keep forcing it and keep going and not be 100% in fighting and not doing yourself justice? So, and I think he's quite content with his decision.
Yeah, and you touched on it there, like what he's come back from. One of the feel-good sporting stories, not just boxing stories, I would have said, and the fallout with Hatton, fallout's probably the wrong word, but that relationship kind of petered out. Then he went to Booth, and it was as if he was making up for last time. Like, he flew through the ranks, unified titles, back-to-back world title fights, and against Donaire, like, it looked like it was just going to be Donaire slightly over the hill, great name to have on your record, and it just went. Like, the freakest of freak injuries.
Yeah, and he was winning the fight, you know. Donaire was in the fight. It was a good fight, but he was winning the fight. And, like, we can talk about the Super Series, like, in Donaire in the final now. It has to be the most fortunate run to the final, isn't it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, when people talk about Frampton being over the hill and past his best, Frampton absolutely wiped the floor with Donaire. Like, almost stopped him, you know. And now here's Donaire, like, after that, coming back, and now he's in the final.
Yeah.
But
He probably might, well, I know it's next week, but he might wish he's not in the final.
No, it's the boogie prize, isn't it?
Yeah.
But if someone can give someone like, you know, how did you pronounce his surname?
Inouye?
Inouye, yeah. It's like, if anyone can give him problems, it will be Donaire because of the experience and his ring savvy.
I can only see that going like a couple of rounds, because Donaire can really punch. It's open to Inouye, and he knows he's not gonna navigate 36 minutes with that guy. So, looking forward to that. I think
That's not
Thursday,
this weekend. The
Thursday
following
week.
Yeah.
But yeah,
credit
like,
to Ryan. Like,
Ryan, yeah, and he had an unbelievable career. Not unified champion, but, you know, held 2 of the belts. It's you know, for us, we would like to see him see what he could achieve again. I think he could easily, if he was healthy, he could easily win another world title. But for his own health and safety, then it's better to retire.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's talk about the weekend, man.
Yeah, like the World Boxing Super Series, it's had its ups and downs, but like, what a crowning moment it was. Like, probably the fight of the year so far. Andy, what were your thoughts on it? You were ringside.
Yeah, it was an outstanding fight. More in terms of will and grit. I don't know, what do you think?
Yeah.
I thought the determination of both men to stand and fight kind of might have went against Prograis, and against him in terms of he was the more skillful fighter, and when he was being skillful in boxing, he was by far the better boxer of the two. But I don't know if it was the pace or himself. We were watching the fight, and to me, he won the first 3 rounds, and then I'm not sure if he took his foot off the pedal, maybe he couldn't live with the pace, or Josh Taylor stepped it up. But that was a real turning point in the fight, round 4. And there was like a real, I don't know, he proved the point, Josh Taylor, that he could push him back and hurt him as well. But it was a savage fight. In terms of the body shots were unreal, the headshots were like...
A lot of uppercuts with the styles as well.
It was phenomenal fight, yeah. But I think it was more a display of guts and will that won it than any skill. And
the atmosphere, or sort of the intrigue around the fight, was like bounding through the television screen. Like, I can only imagine what it was like. Was it Scottish fans in abundance, or was it more of a boxing crowd generally?
It was a huge Scottish contingency there, but also boxing fans. And a lot of ex-fighters who were just dying to watch the fight, you know what I mean? Like, the ringside, we were on our feet, you know, several times during the fight, just clapping, just applauding them. So, yeah, it was... And, like, it pushed Josh Taylor right in the pound-for-pound mix, doesn't it? You'd have to say, like, it's...
It just looked... in terms of the scoring, yeah, the first 3 rounds, maybe... Could you give Taylor maybe the first round? But it seemed even after the 4th round, when the bell went, this happened a few rounds where they kept throwing after the bell went. And
it was ill-tempered in terms of it was fought in a good spirit, but there was a lot of dirt going on, especially rabbit punches as well.
Yeah, and it just seemed that when they were exchanging, if it got Taylor looked like he was throwing the more ferocious punches, and you know, the bigger man, and that suited him. And I thought, just watching it back, I thought, yeah, like, he's going to go on and win this comfortably. But then I kind of had Prograis winning definitely the last 2 rounds, maybe even 3 of the last 4. So it was tight. But I was surprised that it was fought in such close range. I thought we were going to see a more technical fight. Yeah, there was great technical boxing on display, but I didn't think they'd be up so close for pretty much all the fight.
Like, we mentioned it last week that when Prograis was ringside for the semi-final, Taylor fought Baranchik's fights, stood on the inside, and while Taylor's a taller man, like, Prograis is like a dynamo, like, he would fancy himself as the inside fighter of the two, and yet, while he had his way in the first couple of rounds, Taylor stood there. And, like, like while Andy said Prograis probably more slick, I think Taylor did outbox him for a good proportion of the fight. Like there were moments where like Prograis was showing and doing all this stuff, but the more conventional punches were the ones that were landing from Taylor, and I think that's what caught the judge's eye. Some of the scorecards, again, it seems like a weekly thing where people are complaining about the scores. Like I think only one judge, Phil, you mentioned 11 and 12, only one judge gave it to Prograis both of those rounds, so it just shows.
I know, it's pretty... Well, it just turns... I think the right man won the fight.
Yeah,
I had it scored a draw, but if anyone was to win it, it would be Taylor, you know, because he not just because he was aggressive, he landed the more hurtful, hard-held shots. But like rounds 11 and 12, I thought Prograis won big, especially round 12. And the one judge who had it with the one round swing, the one, what was it, 115 to 113, so that's a 1 round swing, he gave round 12 to Taylor, which I thought, had he gave it to Prograis, then the fight would have been called a draw.
Charity draw, yeah.
So
it's funny though, like
that's a big call. Even though like Josh Taylor was noticeably hurt in that last round,
his eye
couldn't. That's why he got caught on the right side when he had that big eye.
And the way the Super Series works is they have another judge, a fourth judge there, so Taylor would have got the trophy, if it had finished a draw,
yeah.
like the titles would have went home with each man, but the trophy would have gone to Taylor. So I think that's a rivalry now. They're both of an age where we're going to see that fight again, maybe another time or another.
You'd
two
like
times.
to see it again.
Glasgow.
Yeah.
Bring it to Glasgow.
I think Taylor certainly got the frame to move up and cause some of those welterweights a bit of trouble.
Yeah.
Although he'd be looking at undisputed title. It's only one fight, you know, so emulate Ken Buchanan and United Division would be quite an incredible achievement. I think you said on commentary, Andy, that he's in the conversation to be Scotland's greatest ever boxer, and like if he's not already there, he's kicking the door down.
Yeah, he's in and he's only young, 16, 17 fights. Like it's insane the progress he's made in that short time, isn't it? You know, that's short few fights, and it shows again if you're good enough, then you're old enough, or you've had, like, you know what I mean, your talent again will decide how fast you can get moved through the ranks.
Yeah,
he's no problem with the weight either, so he can stay there and clean it up if he wants, and then go up.
Yeah, and it was an interesting wrinkle after the fight. I didn't hear anyone talking about this beforehand, but that his father-in-law had passed away, and he was kind of grieving through camp, and like it was well documented that Danica McGuigan had passed away, so it would have been tough on Shane and Team Cyclone. Like, how difficult is that, Andy, when there's stuff going on outside the ring to get into work every day, basically? And
it's extremely difficult, but it's probably the price he paid to win this fight. Like, it's probably the difference. I don't know what. I'm sure Prograis he has had a tough life with working a trainer. That's well documented. But in terms of this training camp and that, you know, being away from home while you should be at home supporting your family. But knowing that you are away for a reason, and kind of probably strengthened his resolve and made him even more determined to not let this fight slip. And there were times when he was getting it tough, and it probably got him through. You know, that was a sacrifice that probably he had to make to win this fight.
Mm-hmm. There's a special air about him. It's always been there. Like, I remember when he fought Victor Postol, and he was doing this off Broadway. Sky didn't pick him up. Like, credit to the McGuigans, they've done a remarkable job with him, like promoting him on ITV and Channel 5, and he fought Postol, who's now fighting for a world title again, and obviously fought Crawford in an undisputed title fight. Like, that was the kind of calibre of opponent he was being slung in with at early doors, and it just showed, like, they weren't hanging around with this guy. And we've spoken about it before, where people with uber talent, they'll get bored if you start throwing them in with tomato cans all the time. Like, if you keep the wheel spinning, they're going to regress almost, and he was just moving up the levels. And when it came to challenging at this elite level, he was ready. And it's like the sky's the limit for him now. I don't know. I think he can...
He's great to watch as well.
If he's not in the top 10 pound for pound, he will be this time next year.
He's making a shoot.
We'll do them at the end of the year, maybe.
I think if people want to watch our end of year show from last year, we did pick Josh Taylor as our one to watch for 2019, and he's certainly lived up to the hype. In terms of the show generally, Andy, like Chisora Price, we both picked Davy Price to detonate that right hand, but
he had a couple of chances, and he actually did not rock, I don't know, but he shook him a little bit, didn't he, Chisora?
I think
the Hellboy came out with a mission.
Yeah.
On a mission even, and
he knew it was a matter of time, didn't he?
Well, I was thinking if that went any longer, would he have anything left? Chisora, he seemed to like
the hard pace.
Yeah, it surprised me, and he walked him down, and he obviously he got the job done. But if it had gone on a few more rounds, I wonder how much it would have taken out of him. But look, he knows Price so well. He probably thought.
I think there was probably the conversation with the corner, Price's corner before the fight, and they said, "Look, if you get hurt and dropped, I'm going to pull you," because he didn't complain too much. He slightly protested, like he didn't embrace his trainer after he threw the towel in, but he didn't protest, and I think it was a good call. I'm not sure how you feel.
It's only going to end one way, I think.
There's a few times it's happened in Price's last few fights where it's been ended like that, where the corner have kind of preemptively ended the fight, because the knockout against Povetkin, like it's a nasty one to look at, where he gets knocked out and his head hits the canvas. You just don't want at his age to be taking punishment like that, and whether that's the end of the road for him, it could be, certainly at any sort of
probably should be
realistic level.
We've been saying that for a long time, though, shouldn't we? Haven't we? And I don't know what he's fighting for, but I hope he can find peace, because it's not going to be in the ring. It's not. He's not. It's proven time and time again. And you take your hat off for trying. Seriously, he's got a you can't question his heart, because even when he was taking it in there from Chisora, he was still firing back, and he was up off his feet and ready to go again. But it's happened too many times now, hasn't it? Being knocked out like that.
Chisora, like you said last week, does this throw a grenade into the heavyweight division? Not really, but he keeps winning, so he's gonna find himself in a meaningful fight again. And
of course, yeah.
Credit to him. You can't really call it a renaissance, because he's been coming back his whole career, it feels
I can remember, like in 2015, like after he'd lost to Klitschko, and people were writing about, like, he has blown hot and cold since then. But like then he was finished. I remember I was commentating on a fight. He was fighting a Georgian guy with a terrible record. He knocked him out in 1 or 2 rounds. Chisora. It was on Box Nation. I was commentating, and even then they were questioning me, like, how far can he go in this division? Like, what's he got left? And like, he's proved to everybody's, like, his profile is built and built and built, and now he's an entertainer. Like, he's an entertainer, isn't he? He's got like that. As much as people were, and he had a point, as much as people were cheering for Josh Taylor, there was a lot more crowd there for him in that and people to see him fight, in the O2. So like, he's a big draw, he's a player in that heavyweight division now. He's right in the mix.
He wants Usyk next, and if you're going to fight Usyk, this is probably the best time to do it.
Yeah, that'd be good.
That'd be a great fight.
Yeah, and in London. And
the way the WBO rankings are working, so Ruiz fights Joshua, obviously, and whoever wins that fight, it looks like they're going to vacate the WBO rather than fight Usyk, because Eddie Hearn won't really want to match his 2 prized heavyweights. So, like, that's assuming Joshua wins, of course.
Yeah.
Let's not put the cart before the horse.
Shout out to Andy Ruiz for pushing a broken down stranger's car.
Yeah.
Get off the road.
Hot man. But anyway, so it looks like Usyk's going to fight for a vacant title, and Chisora's ranked in the WBO, so they might be able to wangle their way into matching those 2 for that belt. And it would be an entertaining scrap. I think he'd obviously favour Usyk, but Chisora will do what he did against Price. He'll charge in there and just try and use his brawn to.
Yeah, and you think back to the Usyk Bellew fight, and Bellew had a bit of success early on, but if Chisora went with that approach, it's a lot harder to work your way into a fight against a bigger man than like, he kind of felt that watching, you knew Usyk would come good against Bellew, but you don't want to be given that kind of ground to someone like Chisora.
No, he can't box like he can't box like Bellew. He just can't do that. He can't be negative and technical and try and pick shots and steal rounds. Chisora can only fight one way.
Try and drown him.
Say to be sensational coming forward and being try and drown him, or else he stinks the place out. but you'd assume it's going to be the latter. But it's the footwork of Usyk that'll probably be a difference, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it'd be a good fight.
Yeah.
It would. And
the press conference would be.
Yeah, but like, you think back to when he fought Vitali, and remember he spat the water out at,
slapped him at the weigh-in and all.
Vladimir.
Yeah.
But I don't know. And at times I questioned, like, what is he doing? But I just, the more he's come, you just get to like him even more.
There's that thing with Anna Woolhouse. See that interview he did where he was sitting on his deck, and I don't know where he lives, and it's out in the country, and he's sitting on the deck, and she was asking about all these incidents, and he was like, I just did it in the moment. Some of it was preempted. Some of it I just felt like doing it. And like no one can get away with that type of thing. Like slapping Vitali, whack, and then spitting water. I just look at that, but I just like. Like it went on for a good 3 or 4 seconds. I thought it was just stood there. Like it wasn't like it was like a. It was like. And it was right in his face, and I was like, "Oh my God, you got to do something to this man. You can't let him get away with that."
He's kind of gone full circle.
Yeah. He's redeemed himself now.
I think people are just like, do you know what? Like, he is what he is, like, and celebrate him for what he is, not for what he won't do. But yeah, like you could even hear the chant, like for when he's fighting. So he's got a huge following.
It was class. He threw his gloves off to the crowd. You know, he took his gloves off, threw them to the crowd, and that's building a fan base. You know.
Also, as well, he looks in decent nick now. He's
for a guy who trains himself.
Yeah, he's like his conditioning is a lot better.
There was a clip like when he cut. Sorry, Phil. When he cut to the corner. I know the dressing room, and he was warming up doing pads. It was the worst kind of pads I've ever seen in my life. It was like they just met. It was literally like they just met. He was like holding the pads. Just didn't even bother to hit them. Like,
yeah, no, he is. He definitely looks a lot better condition than he used to be in.
Yeah, that's you can credit David Hay for that.
Niall Kennedy has a story. He went over to spar Chisora, and he was in the gym, and he was all gloved up and ready to go. Chisora was on the bike. And Don Charles says, right, just do one round with this kid and then Derek's going to be ready to come in with you, because he was waiting on Derek Chisora. And he did the one round with the lad, and then Derek Chisora went home. He just went home. Didn't say that, but he just went home. So that's probably the difficulties in training Chisora.
He is the enigma. That word gets thrown around a lot in boxing, but he is actually the dictionary definition. Elsewhere on the card, bit of a crossroads fight, Lee Selby, Ricky Burns. Lee Selby clearly won the fight. Like Ricky Burns was kind of crying foul a little bit at the end. It was more competitive than I thought it'd be. More like high paced.
Yeah, there was quality in it, wasn't he? There was quality in it for a fight, and that was for. Talk about the Josh Taylor Prograis fight. That was ill-tempered as well.
Bad spirits there.
Yeah. For like two guys that were mates supposedly. Maybe they were maybe there was. Yeah, sometimes that happens, doesn't it? You know that.
Yeah, you don't want to give them the edge, do you? Because you know if you're their mate, it's going to change the relationship, even if you lose with them as well. You're spending time with them.
Lots of shots after the bell in that fight as well.
Lots of shots.
Maybe there was just the atmosphere. I couldn't hear the bell.
No, it wasn't that. But it was. It was a good fight, wasn't it? And just Selby, I could see from the start he's fresher legs.
Yeah.
And I said that's gonna be the difference, and it's just the movement and that and clever work from Selby. But like it's a weird fight because it's a loss for Burns, it's a win for Selby, but
it's kind of just get them back in the public consciousness.
Yeah, I know, but they could have given them two kind of foreign opponents, and like I don't know. Like that's pretty much the end of. I don't know. It's the end of Burns, is it?
Yeah, I think Burns has always said
he'll come back fighting. No, he'll keep fighting.
Yeah,
but like any kind of ambition, like he probably if he used to fight any domestic guys as he showed against Scott Cardinal, like he'll beat them because he is quality. You know what I mean? And for what's he 38?
36.
36 in fantastic shape, isn't he?
He's had a phenomenal career.
Super shape. Like I think he'd beat most of the guys at a level below what he is right now, like Selby and that. But I don't know if it does much for Selby. Does it? Doesn't make you excited to see him again. I don't know.
No, again, I think it was just sort of to remind people that Lee Selby's still around. It's such a difficult division, and like, you cast your mind back to last year, and when he was matched with Warrington, there was only one winner for me and for a lot of different people, and like Warrington bulldozed him. So it just showed he was done at that weight. He's jumped up to lightweight. He skipped super feather. Just shows how tight he was at that weight. So,
but he is a tremendously skilled fighter.
Very good,
and a tricky fighter and a quality fighter. Selby, like, if he can get some momentum and some excitement, he's still a big fighter. Like,
Phil, did you get a chance to look at that one?
I haven't actually. No. I think we all picked Selby to win, didn't we?
Yeah, I think. I don't know. I think Ricky Burns, like we mentioned, Josh Taylor earlier, and. Like Ricky Burns is going to go down as a 3-weight world champion, and like in terms of,
it's a pity if Burns had won, it could have been a Burns Taylor fight.
Yeah,
you know could have been a nice little send off for him, but no, yeah.
Yeah, I think at the top level, that's probably the end for Ricky Burns. Speaking of awkward styles in Lee Selby, the most awkward of style is Lawrence Okoli, who the crowd weren't buying into that one much, Andy. And
yeah, I actually only got in to see the end of it, but it looked like a good finish. But Jason was giving his ex-teammate a good chance. He was giving him a good chance, but apparently Okoli shut him out, did he?
He doesn't fight on the inside, and the referee probably should have been more forthright in breaking him up, you know what I mean?
Tying him up.
Yeah, and like we spoke about, he's made improvements under Shane McGuigan, but it's all, he's gone back to his, the story's well chronicled that he was working at McDonald's, he was way overweight, and boxing's kind of turned it around for him, so he's late to the game, and in that sense, to be European champion so quickly is impressive, but it's not a good style to watch. He's not going to appeal to the quote-unquote casuals.
The only thing about it is, though, he finishes people, doesn't he?
Yeah?
He finishes people, he gets the knockoughts.
What did you think of that stoppage?
It was...
for an undefeated European champion?
Yeah, I know.
I know.
Yeah, it was a bit soon, but maybe it was only going to go one way. It was only going to be a matter of time, though, was it?
Yeah, probably. It did seem that way. Conor Benn on the card as well, and good win for him. He's been linked with Josh Kelly, who's signed up to fight David Avanesian, which is a really good fight.
Hell of a fight.
Looking forward to that one. But with the Benns in mind, thankfully the Nigel Benn fight is off, and we can all breathe a sigh of relief.
55-year-old shoulder couldn't hold up.
Yeah, I'm glad he's just seeing common sense and said, I'm not delaying this, I'm just saying, that was a stupid thing to get involved in the first place, so I think we can all breathe a sigh of relief on that one. So you enjoyed your time in London anyway, Andy?
Yeah, it's good. I'm going to Manchester this week.
Yeah.
You going?
I'm there. Looking forward to it.
No. Some of us have to work at the weekends.
Listen.
Well, you will be working.
He's working, I'm working.
Yeah, I know.
But well,
yes. Well, we should move on to...
if you can call it work, though.
Yeah.
It's not really a job.
Speaking of Josh Taylor, we should move on to Katie Taylor and, breaking down boundaries as normal, the first female to headline a mainstream card in the UK, which is, remarkable when you think about it. But, going for a second world title, or second weight class, rather, moving up, I always thought 135 was sort of the max for Katie Taylor. Those 5 pounds for her, I think she looked quite small against Delphine Pursoon, for example. And while she's, again, much like Taylor and Prograis, she's the taller woman in this fight, Linda Dartu's the more imposing figure, I would have thought. So it's going to be an interesting matchup, I think.
Linda Dartu's not a huge...
No, but she's kind of
lightweight,
bulky, I would have thought.
She's got broad shoulders, yeah.
And she's got a good right hand if you watch her win there against Candy Wyatt, isn't it? My worry for Katie Taylor is that we know she can outbox anyone, but she keeps getting dragged into these wars, and some night it's going to go wrong. And, have they got it in the corner to turn it around if it's not going their way? She could put on a clinic for 10 rounds and outbox any of them. But if it gets physical and into a scrap, if you watch Linda Dartu's knockout in that fight I was talking about against White, she just comes out at the start of a round and just throws a whopper right hand, and that pretty much ends the fight. So
but she came out, that was round 6 or 7,
yeah.
And up to that point she'd had a tough, hard fight.
Yeah. Against a bigger opponent.
And she still well, the point I'm making is that she was able to maintain her power after a hard 5 rounds. So she's going to be dangerous at any point. And that overhand right, I don't have no doubts about Katie and her greatness, but that overhand right is a punch that she's susceptible to. Yeah. And she's going to have to watch.
Just later, some of the fights where... she's got dragged into scraps and it gets into the later rounds and you kind of think that she seems to be running out of gas a little bit, which shouldn't really be happening. I mean, they're only 2-minute rounds. Sometimes, that can work against you and it can work for you obviously where it works against you, if you've got somebody there for the take and you can't get them out. There's plenty of fights she's had where if there was an extra minute in the round, she'd get it finished. But then there's other ones where she's so far ahead from the start of the fight that she might lose a few rounds towards the end of the fight. It's not a major deal, but she doesn't tend to lose that many rounds. And people might be thinking, what am I talking about? She's undefeated. But I'm just worried that some night, that style, that she gets dragged into a war, that it's just going to be one too many. And sometimes when you're watching the fight, I'm just thinking, can she get herself out of that situation?
Yeah.
And
I'm just not sure about the weight, to be honest. Like, she's got the skills to carry up, but it's like size-wise, I'm just not sure. Like, this might just be a brief, like a Canelo-esque sort of move up and move straight back down again. Like, she's probably thinking, win this one, rematch McCaskill. You know, look, maybe try and unify that division as well if she could. Like, the Pursuit fight's there. We talked about Cecilia Brykus, who signed to Matchroom. That fight's there as well. But they're all going to be around the 140 terrain. I'm not sure if that really suits her. Like, at 135 against women her own size, she's almost unbeatable. It's when it gets up into these, when she's trying to equalise, sort of level the playing field a bit. We talk about Lomachenko all the time, where he's kind of maybe too ambitious for his own good. But one thing about this fight, which is worth noting, it's the first female fight ever under VADA testing, where both fighters have signed up for voluntary drug testing. And, you know, there have been concerns about former Katie Taylor opponents who have failed tests in the past. At least we know going in this one, you know, it's a clean slate.
And also we have to mention that she's topping the bill in Manchester on Sky Sports. And that's like you talk about boundary, like breaking down boundaries and that, but this is a huge statement for her to be headlining a show. You know, somebody like Anthony Crolla, former world champion, is, you know, it's his hometown. Now, I believe that he's going to be the last fight, because it probably makes sense. Him being the last fight, so it's not a big exodus when he leaves, but Katie Taylor's top of the bill. She's the main attraction. And, like, this is a dangerous fight. It's a dangerous fight. And if she's already great, Katie. If she never fought again, she'd be great. She's a Hall of Famer. But if she wins this fight at a second weight division, headlining the show in Manchester, it only compounds her greatness.
It'll probably be a very good fight as well. Yeah. You know, it'll be.
I just want to see someone, like I've been saying for a long time, just from a boxing and technical standpoint, we think her achievements are great. I don't think she lost to person. I thought she won by one round. So she's never been beaten, and she's achieved so much, and she's done so much for female athletes and female boxers. But I want to see improvements technically. I want to see her rolling and moving ahead. I don't want to see her getting caught clean. You know, I don't want to see her taking hard shots, even though she's always willing to engage and make a fight of it. And we've talked about how she wants to make fights entertaining. I want to see her box clinically and put on a show. That's it. Not get hit clean.
Yeah, and she's nothing to prove in that regard. You mentioned there trying to put on a show, but like, by dint of the fact that she's headlining the card, it should suggest that she's already built herself to that level where she doesn't need to make a name for herself. People know who Katie Taylor is.
Putting on a show can be like a shutout, like an absolutely clinical performance where she doesn't get hit. Like you mentioned Lomachenko, like that's what he does. He fights people that are bigger than him, but he doesn't get hit. He just breaks them down because they can't lay a glove on him. So why not do that? Like, she doesn't have to prove to anyone that we know how tough she is. Like, you know, you've seen her sparring sessions, like, but don't like get dragged into a war, because eventually it's going to come back and work against her. And the danger would be it would be at a higher weight class. But it's a huge carrot in front of her, like to go two weights and headlining the bill. So it'd be great just to see her absolutely school Leonard Atu, and we'd be talking about a shutout rather than another one where you think, that could have gone either way, because that was the general feeling after the Pursuit fight. A lot of people saying that she lost it. Yeah,
and from Leonard Atu's perspective, we remember the first press conference where her management were piping up that she wasn't being treated as a champion, and probably there's an element of truth in that, but, you know, the A side is quite clear in this one. But she'll have a point to prove. You know, she's coming over as a champion. She won't give it up lightly, I'm sure.
There's the rematch clause. There was none. Wasn't that
There's a rematch clause for Taylor, no rematch clause for the champion, so
they're going to be coming over. They're going to be a bit of fire in the belly.
Be interested to see if there's any that's at the final press conference, and see if they can get under that. They'll be trying to get under Katie Taylor's skin.
For sure, because I remember after the last press conference, she flew from Boston that morning or something. She was quite tired herself, so like this kind of caught her out on the hop, and she was a bit worse for wear. But as you mentioned, Anthony Crolla, another big attraction on the card, and like hell of a career. The lads in Joe Galler's camp have been saying you're going to be surprised when you see how good he looks. Like, you're going to be thinking this guy shouldn't be retiring, but it's definitely, if he can get a nice win, retire with that crowd behind him, it'd be a nice way to play.
It's like your mate when he says, "Yeah, I'm off to Australia now, I'm immigrating." You have a big party, everyone throws in a few quid, and then he comes back 2 weeks later, you know. No, I couldn't leave, you know.
It wasn't the same without you.
But yeah, nice for him. A nice way to do it, isn't it?
Yeah.
And probably fitting by all accounts, he's a very nice fella, and it was great little fighter.
Is there any danger that because he knows it's his last fight, it's in Manchester, that he could put too much pressure on himself?
I don't know. I heard Joe Gallagher was talking to I think it was Rob Tebbett, and he was basically saying I had to stop training the other day and tell the lads, Anthony Crowley's embarrassing all of you. This guy's retiring next weekend and he's outperforming you in the gym, you know. So it just shows what kind of level he's at. I don't think he's so well adjusted that I don't think he'll ever get done on complacency. And it'll be a nice come down from fighting Lomachenko to this weekend. He'll have a nice, hopefully a nice win. Unfortunately, Joshua Buatsi's off the card.
Yeah.
Which is a shame. I was looking forward to seeing him again.
He was going to fight Blake Camparello.
Yeah.
Yeah. Australian. Would have been a good fight, I think.
Yeah.
It might happen again, I think. Yeah, he got sick. Jack Cullen and Phoenix Cash.
Good fight.
Good little fight, yeah, and see if Cash can step up another level, see how far he can go.
Yeah. And Martin Bacoli, I think, has subbed in for Buatsi, so he'll make up that fight on the card. And Bacoli, like we talked about him last year, like quite well heralded, and then got caught in the hot by Michael Hunter, signed with Matchroom now. They're trying to rebuild him. And the heavyweight division, like they have so many heavyweights in that stable alone, like they're just trying to match everybody up. So
I thought he did a nice job against Kevin Johnson, whatever about Kevin Johnson at this stage, but I thought he still did well. And yeah, we'll see how he goes. Good that he's getting active, getting busy.
And the big fight this weekend on the other side of the pond is Kovalev against Canelo.
Yeah.
Like, what do we think? Like, the presumption has always been that Canelo's going to win this fight, but you know, the closer it gets, you're kind of looking at the two standing beside each other, and you're like, I don't know. Kovalev can punch,
and a huge size difference. And you think about the styles, you know, how they match up. Kovalev is quite rigid and strong, straight puncher with decent footwork in terms of closing distance when he's punching.
Yeah.
You know, Canelo's got one of the most attractive styles out there in terms of the way he can slip and counter. But you just think that Canelo's just going to be stood in front of him, moving his head left to right, slipping, and bop, whatever he wants, you know? It's always going to be dangerous when he's in there with a naturally bigger man in terms of, and who can punch, Kovalev. It's funny because when he first came on the scene, Kovalev, he was like a devastating puncher, wasn't he? And now he's still a puncher, but he's not that guy who would knock out everybody. You know, him and Golovkin were similar. They came around the same time, but they had that similar kind of fear factor in terms of whoever they touched, they were knocking them out.
Yeah, but like, you have to think of Canelo's team are looking at this. They wouldn't have taken this fight on if they didn't think they could get this done and low risk as well.
But the only thing about it is I think we'll see a better Kovalev for that reason, because he's being underestimated. He's probably being insulted that they're actually going to fight him, and also he's just coming. He hasn't stopped training since he fought Anthony Yarde.
I think that's a great thing for him actually, because he's Andrew Ward highlighted a lot during their pre-fight press conferences that, you know, let's just say Kovalev enjoys being out of camp, but this time he hasn't really had a chance to do that. He's been out of one camp into another. So, and like it seems, Buddy McGirt seems to be the veteran boxing whisperer, where he picks up these guys late in their careers and, you know, tries to mould them in his own image. And like Gatti is the most famous example of that. But I've seen improvements in Kovalev, especially in the last couple of fights where he's gone back to, you know, the conventional boxing that like bore out so well from initially. But John David Jackson was speaking in the week, and he always comes around when Kovalev's fighting, and he was basically saying he never had any interest in learning how to fight on the inside. And like Andrew Ward punished him in both of those fights on the inside, and you can imagine Canelo's going to be slipping those jabs and just nailing him to the body over and over.
Can't imagine him fighting on the inside, can you?
No. So it's just you'd have to fancy Canelo to get the body shots home in a way that Kovalev just can't really pull the trigger in that regard anymore. So,
but I'm looking forward to it though.
It's a huge fight. It's
great fight.
Yeah, great fight.
Great matchup. Like I always ask you, Andy, in these underdog situations, like Kovalev probably thinking, I'm not the underdog in this
Exactly,
fight.
like heavyweight champion of the world.
Yeah, but like, what's his path to victory? Is it just keep Canelo on the end of the jab? And
It's hard to say. He has to try, yeah. I don't know what you do with something like Canelo when you don't have that kind of skills, you know? Like, I don't know. It's hard to see, isn't it? Like, he's looked so good recently, Canelo. He's so improved. Mayweather, obviously, Lara gave him a tough fight. But those two are hugely tricky, skillful fighters. And Kovalev is not that. He is tricky, he is skillful, but he's not as good as those guys at doing it. And what can he do against Canelo? Try to walk him onto a right hand. You know,
he's not going to win on points anyway. We've learned that.
Well,
yeah,
that's the unthinkable, isn't it?
But we'll see. What can he do? Jab the body. The body doesn't move, you know, as much as the head, and try to set up a right hand.
It's funny, like the one
thing he does is like, you know, I'm sorry to.
There you go.
I was just thinking, is that he has that Eastern European amateur styles that he'll throw 1, 2, and then he'll ram in with his jab, with his left hand. And it is a jab, but it's almost as powerful as a right hand or the backhand because of the way his momentum takes him in. And he keeps his feet together in stance. And that could be a telling punch if he can land that. You know, Canelo might slip the first two, but the last one might get him, you know. But we saw, even when you watch some of the little clips that go around of Canelo versus Jacobs now, and the head movement that he was doing in that fight and how he was able to slip all those straight punches and then counter himself.
Yeah.
He's a master.
And like Phil hit the nail on the head in terms of he picks people at the right time, because it looked like Jacobs had his number. Like I picked Jacobs to win that fight, but it just happened that Jacobs was on his last legs as a middleweight.
Same.
Has since moved up to
Golovkin as well.
Yeah. And like I saw Sugar Ray Leonard, who's like this fight's on his own, so he was talking about he had a similar thing where he moved up to fight Donny Lalonde at light heavyweight, but it was sort of a cherry pick situation where he could have fought like maybe a more, you know, damaging light heavyweight, but he picked Lalonde. And even against him, he said in the first round, you know, I was doing my thing, moving around, got hit with one jab. I was like, this is a different ball game up here. Yeah. Like 175.
It's a big difference.
It's
like he's really a middleweight, Canelo. It's 15 pounds, you know.
Yeah, because like you see, like 135, 140, 147, people move up and down those weights, but 175 is a different. You're in with the big
for
boys.
168, it's a jump.
So there are wrinkles in this that make it interesting, and it's a bumper night of action.
It's something to keep us entertained, anyway. To keep us intrigued.
You'd be doing well to get through the Manchester card, lads, and stay up and watch that one.
I'm not going to be up. Are you going up?
I don't know. I might just record it and see. I'll see. See how I get on.
Is it being shown on TV?
It's on Sky Sports.
Yeah, we'll record it.
Couple of other bits of news. Chris Eubank Jr., Andy.
I told you that was going to happen, didn't I? You were away. Was he away?
Oh, yeah.
We talked about Carball Jr. Yeah.
What do you think?
Has he been on to you for the blueprint?
He asked me. Yeah, I did.
The key is hit him 18 times unanswered.
Wait till he's trying to throw a punch and hit. No. And Carball has had a little resurgence. You know, he, by all accounts, he beat Charlo, but didn't get the decision. And then he had a draw in his last fight with a good fighter. What's that guy called? Oh, I can't think of his name. Akeem something, but a good fighter. So I don't know. It's like it's a dangerous one for Junior. I think it's a dangerous one because he's not a boxer, Chris Eubank Jr. He's a fighter, and he can sustain, he can go, he can punch, he's hard as nails. But he's not a boxer, and he can be outboxed easily. And if Carball's anything, it's a boxer. Like, I think it could be a bad call for you. But is Carball, like, he's 36 now, 37 coming up, had a long career as an amateur, had a tough career, up and down career as a pro. Is he past his best? Probably, but has he got enough to hold off? Maybe he doesn't have enough left to hold off Eubank Jr. But we'll find out. And it's another intriguing, excellent fight. Like
it's on the same night as Joshua Ruiz, which is poor planning, I think.
And Hogan and Charlo on the undercard.
Yeah.
So it's great. What's that? December 7th.
December 7th.
Jason's fighting December 5th. I'd probably be flying back from California.
You have to do all this planning, make sure you fit everything in.
I got to get those fights in.
One last fight we should mention, Halloween night in Saudi Arabia. It's Tyson Fury against Braun Strowman.
I thought you were going to say Logan Paul.
Tyson, it's unbelievable what he's done here.
It's crazy, isn't it? I don't know what the money that's being banded around the place, 14 million and stuff. I don't know if that's true, but it's it's in the wheelhouse, isn't it? It's in that area, and why not?
It's just I don't know who came up with the plan. You probably know better than me, but the linear thinking here, because it's on Fox, and that's where the Deontay Wilder fight's going to be on Fox pay-per-view. You're going to capture this new audience of WWE younger fans. They're going to be engaged with Tyson Fury, and then BT are picking up WWE from the new year, and obviously they're going to have the fight in February. So again, it's just they're just using Tyson Fury as the emblem for this whole thing. So I don't know. As I said to you last week, Andy, I think he's just going to think, forget about Wilder.
He'd be doing well to get him out of the ring in a Royal Rumble. He'd be one of those lads. You have to get 4 or 5 to try and lift him up over the ropes.
I got a feel I can't see him following a script, especially if he's. I'm sure he's set out to win the fight. You know the script. I'm sure he's going to win the fight. He has to. I can't see him losing the fight to Braun Strowman. I think if he's down to lose the fight in the script, I don't think you see him following it. Yeah. I think he's crazy enough, and he's so competitive. He's the type of guy, if we're doing press-ups in the gym and I do 20 and he's dead at 20, he'll still do 25. Even if he can't do it at 25, he'll get them out.
Yeah, I remember when Floyd Mayweather did it against the Big Show. People can look this up if they haven't seen it. He knocked 7 teeth out of his mouth or something, proper punch. It was crazy. So these boxers don't take well to instruction.
You've seen
so do we call
Hulk Hogan and Rocky,
if Tyson loses this fight, is he now what's his name, Braun Strowman?
Braun Strowman, yeah.
Is he now the linear champion?
He's the linear heavyweight champion.
Are you claim to it?
We should do a prediction. Phil's 1-0 up from last week. So what fight should we predict this week?
Well, in fairness, I was saying to Andy outside, my football predictions were so bad that at least I got something half right.
The Leicester Southampton.
Let's go through all the fights, okay? The main events anyway.
Okay.
Katie Taylor, win.
Katie Taylor on points.
On points, yeah, close.
And then we'll go Canelo Kovalev.
Canelo
on points.
I think Canelo will stop him.
I think stoppage. Late stoppage.
All right, so we'll keep a record of that. We'll let you know what the crack is next week.
Tyson Fury
Strowman. I don't know. I haven't been following the build-up.
Tomorrow night.
It's Halloween night, yeah. So I think would Tyson Fury
by pinfall?
There's going to be someone by disqualification or some sort of
called Stunner.
Yeah.
Do not try this at home.
Someone's going to interfere in this match.
I'll put you for the table in a minute.
We should get Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder should interfere in the fight. That would
That could happen.
That would build things up.
That's a great prediction.
That could happen.
That's it. I'll play this clip next week when that does happen. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. You can catch up on the podcast on Spotify or iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts, or you can stream here on YouTube, Facebook, wherever you want. That's it from the lads. That's it from me. That's it from Andy and Phil. We'll chat to you next week.